I believe me, I struggled for years on that question of how to, does one. Eventually, I just had to sit with the contradiction that seemed to me to have no resolution. That monopolies are bad for consumers. They limit choice. They can slow the rate of innovation. They can increase prices dramatically, and yet they also created this curious institution of Bell Labs that could take this long view because it was attached to a parent company, and therefore it could think long term and it could terminate research without any problem at all and just move on to the next thing and just write it off. Do I think research labs are dead? I think it's really hard for a company to fund it and justify it, and I think it's especially hard for a company it can be like, even if hypothetically a corporation were to invest largely in a sort of pure research endeavor, it seems to me it would just be so vulnerable to a boom-bust cycle that to take the long view would be very hard. What happens when you have a bad year for revenues or when growth slows? That's a pretty expensive endeavor sometimes. I think technologies can make research cheaper now in some ways than they were back then with computing. But I do think that to capture the value, to invest in a pure research lab is very hard for a corporation because it's very hard to capture the value of doing basic science, and the risks are quite high, and the risk of failure is tremendous. So I don't know what the answer is right now with the distributed model of universities and national laboratories and then private sector. Is it in some as good? I think it's a great question. I like to talk about it. I come down in different ways on that, but